Alexei Navalny, Russia's leading opposition figure, has died at age 47 while serving a sentence of more than 30 years on multiple charges.
Trumped-up charges.
The anti-corruption activist was one of the Kremlin's most vocal critics.
But what he did is exposed corruption in his country, and he fought to try and change it, and they tried to kill him for it.
Navalny, comment below what your interpretation of these events, as of right now, before we get into this, what your interpretation is. So the American left and the right, I guess you say conservative liberals, they're trying to use the death of this guy Navalny to push a narrative, and neither one is right. So some people on the right are trying to claim that Navalny was a Western plant. Now, here's the truth. Navalny, not at all a liberal, just to be clear.
No.
The left is trying to claim that Navalny's persecution is what Donald Trump wants to do here in America. And the truth is that President Trump is far more like Navalny than he is Vladimir Putin.
Absolutely.
If you're talking about political prosecution. And both sides are ignoring some key facts here. So let's hopefully break this down, distill it in a way that you can kind of understand. So this guy is obviously a critic of Putin, right? Russia's main opposition leader died.
Yeah.
And where did he die?
A Siberian penal colony.
Yes. Before we go to
I know that.
Is that what I think it is?
the clip.
Sort of.
In a matter of speaking.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You complain about your life. And everyone kind of compares, their sort of their horror stories. Siberian penal colony probably takes the cake.
Probably top of the list.
I mean, I would rather have bowel cancer, which you'll probably get in a Siberian penal colony as well. So this guy, opposition leader, died in a Siberian penal colony. Let's just, so you don't take it from us.
Alexei Navalny, Russia's leading opposition figure, has died at age 47 while serving a sentence of more than 30 years on multiple charges.
Trumped-up charges.
The anti-corruption activist was one of the Kremlin's most vocal critics. Despite being barred from challenging President Vladimir Putin at the ballot box, he galvanized Russia's political opposition. Navalny's death comes after Putin announced that he planned to run for re-election in 2024.
Run.
A move that could keep him in power until at least 2030.
I love how he's so coy, like, I'm not going to run. I'm not. Do you want me to run? All right.
What a surprising announcement.
Yes.
Do I get a bigger table? Okay.
Okay, big table.
After his opponent dies of natural causes.
Yes, of course. Well, you know what? I mean, the mortality rate is quite high in Siberian penal colonies.
Gosh.
So Navalny exposed, some Kremlin officials' corruption. Now, just to be clear, too, 400 people, they've already been arrested at memorials for Navalny.
Yeah, go figure.
This does seem, obviously, like it's politically motivated. And look, I think there's real value. For example, we were talking about Tucker, and we tried to cover the interview with Putin, which I think was... Look, I think was pretty valuable. I think was important to do. I support, of course, but then he also did the grocery store run in Russia, which
Subway.
was missing some context.
Yep.
Like, I don't know why it's controversial to say, and this is not fence sitting. I'm a conservative, to be clear. I absolutely think there's value in saying, yeah, of course, Russia is corrupt. However, there's a lot of corruption here in the United States to which you turn a blind eye. There's value to that.
Yes.
There absolutely is value to that. And there is value to say, hey, you know what, hold on a second. When you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars being pledged to Ukraine, that's also a money laundering capital of the world, and it's corrupt, and it's basically an installed government. That's absolutely true.
Yeah, now hundreds of billions of dollars.
Did I say 100 millions?
Yeah.
Sorry. Guys, admonish me. It's just, in my head, I forget. Millions, billions.
I mean, it's like Austin Powers,
And we talked about this. It was the same night that Joseph Biden did his little press conference, left, came back, was clearly out of his mind, and you saw an interview with Putin. Look, objectively, Vladimir Putin looks more powerful when you look at those two, I guess, sort of public spectacles, because he was articulate, even if some of it was propaganda. He had an understanding of Russian history. And it doesn't make former Vice President Biden look very good.
No,
now,
he spoke for 2 hours without confusing Mexico and Egypt. It's a low bar.
I know. and it,
Not once.
Like, I don't get why that's controversial. First off, it makes your toolman, like, let me give you an example. Hitler bad, okay? Hitler, we all agree, Hitler is terrible.
Hitler bad all the time.
Of course.
Except for his final act.
Now, I can...
Sorry, Hitler bad until he shot himself. And he was like, all right, fine.
But in the fullness of time, I can say objectively, comment below, is this a controversial statement? Adolf Hitler at one point in time was not only perceived to be, but was a more powerful man than someone who would be morally superior in Chamberlain. right? We're talking about Neville Chamberlain. It required a Churchill, a powerful man, to come in and stop someone like a Hitler. That doesn't mean that Hitler wasn't powerful, and Chamberlain obviously would have had the moral high ground, but he was a weak man, or he's an incapable man. Same thing saying Putin obviously is more articulate, more lucid than Joseph Biden. That shouldn't be controversial. Now, that being said, of course, this is a man who jails political dissidents. Yeah. And, of course, we would wager that Navalny was, foul play suspected.
You know why? Because, I don't know, we'll talk about it in a second. They tried multiple times before. They were just unsuccessful in killing him.
Yeah, because Russians are drunks.
Well.
They can't get anything done over there. Their plans fall through.
I'll kill him. Don't worry about it.
After we go out drinking.
Yes. And after I take dip in my indoor-outdoor pool. So this is nothing new. People defending Putin as though, well, American Democrats are corrupt. Absolutely. But the idea that Vladimir Putin would not cross the line of killing a dissident, come on, guys. He's always made sure that he ends up victorious. I mean, you see it all the time. We have in hockey where he scored a record 7 goals. If you remember this. Yeah.
Yeah, they just let him score.
Yeah. Or Vladimir Putin, some question his international victories in judo.
21 straight years.
And no one can be a champion in that many sports. In hockey, in judo, and then it was a stretch with the bowling.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
More than a perfect game. The first 301 in history.
Yes, I know.
Impressive.
Good job, Putin.
Pretty cool.
Well, they carry the one. For me.
There's no one to carry.
I have a man who follows me all day. He simply carries one. It's my favorite number. To remind me that I am that number. Now.
He's a vampire.
The reason, though, that people are suspicious, and this I understand it, is because Democrats, before the body was even cold, immediately used the death to push for what, and this is wrong, Ukraine funding.
This tragedy reminds us of the stakes of this moment. We have to provide the funding so Ukraine can keep defending itself against Putin's vicious onslaughts and war crimes.
Whatever. Okay.
It's like he's learning about it as he's reading.
Yeah, I know.
It's like he always goes,
like,
his vicious, what did he do? Oh, that son of a bitch.
What in holy hell? Navalny's dead. You guys know that?
He's like, who's Navalny?
Oh,
I saw him last week.
I can't believe it. Amy's Diner. So
He's a great server.
you can't always look at some of the international incidents here through the American lens of left-right. To be clear, I'm a conservative, not a fence-sitter. But let's look at some of the claims versus the truth. So here's a claim that you get from the right, my right, your left, that Navalny, I've been seeing this going around, that he was actually just a Western puppet. So here's the truth. Whether you like Putin, Navalny, or not, Navalny was a Russian nationalist through and through. He refused to meet the United States ambassador to avoid getting too close to the United States. He supported the annexing of Crimea. He attended Russian nationalist marches. He advocated for deporting migrants, saying immigrants from Central Asia bring in drugs to Russia because technically Russia Asiatic. But I'm making clear.
There you go. Yeah.
Everything in our way should be carefully but decisively removed through deportation. He also advocated Russian gun ownership in this kind of odd, but it's Russia, anti-Islam video.
Здравствуйте! Сегодня мы поговорим о борьбе с насекомыми. Никто из нас не застрахован от того,
They still use Windows Movie Maker.
They do. Almost 7. You got to give him a little bit of a break.
залетит муха. Все мы знаем, что от мух отлично помогает мухобойка, а от тараканов – тапка. Но что делать, если таракан окажется слишком велик, а муха не в меру агрессивна? Ну а в этом случае я рекомендую пистолет.
By the way, just awful trigger control.
Awful trigger control. By the way, if you're being attacked, kind of supporting the guy.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like some random dude. It was, the guy was running in and growling of sorts. So,
Yeah, like the cockroach from Men in Black.
There you go.
I'd shoot it.
It's reasonable.
Yeah.
Looked like the Phantom of the Opera to me.
That did a little bit.
He broke in, yeah.
I just need love!
Yeah.
Die! I've never actually seen The Phantom of the Opera. Like, I don't really fully know the story.
It's guy about it's mask.
He lives in the opera.
I think it's an opera Noterback. Noterback?
That's all you need.
Noterback.
Humpback.
I think
The
it's an
humpback
opera
whale of
hunchback.
Notre Dame.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Who are we? All Joseph Biden right now?
That's
We
where
can't
Gerald
play the
went.
same character.
Jared went to Noterback.
Yes.
It was a gay time.
There was a good-looking gypsy in Humpback.
We had a gay
Notre
old
Dame.
time. You're right.
That gypsy. Can we say
Yeah,
gypsy?
the cartoon gypsy.
She was fine.
One of the better cartoons Disney's made.
They're all good cartoons.
Jasmine's the best.
So let's look at some of the claims from the left because, all of these claims may not necessarily be true. Here's some of their claims. And this is why I want to get to the judgment against Donald Trump, the BS judgment that is, it should terrify you. But they say that Donald Trump wants to persecute his opponents just like Vladimir Putin.
Oh, Lord.
This is what Eric Swalwell, professional banger of Chinese spies. Hey, why is this guy not in jail? What's our equivalent to a Siberian penal colony? He was banging Chinese spies, and he's still in office.
Maybe he got some important information out of her.
Yes.
No.
A good recipe for
He doesn't have
Chinese spy banger. Professional.
I'm surprised
Eric
they wasted
Swalwell.
the time on Swalwell.
He tweeted this over the weekend. He said, "Let Navalny's death be a warning to America. If returned to power, Donald Trump will jail his opponents. This isn't a forecast. He has already told us this. There will be no evidence or due process, and certainly no opposition from Republicans in Congress." Couple of things before I get to the truth. Do you mean like lock her up, Hillary Clinton, and then he did nothing?
There you go.
Even though she actually did commit crimes by her own admission? Do you mean like Barack Obama, who was spying on the Donald Trump campaign? Like, you say that he has told us. No, he's told us that there will be justice for corrupt members of the swamp.
That's what I would like him to do. He's like, we don't have to assume. He's already said he'll do it. It's like, show me one person.
Yes.
One person that he has locked up as a political opponent.
Is that Hillary Clinton? Is that the same Hillary Clinton that won an election after her opponent died?
Good point.
Allegedly.
Huh. Didn't jail her, huh?
Did nothing. Nothing happened to Hillary Clinton. And here's the truth. The former Vice President Biden regime is, as far as I can remember in my lifetime, they have jailed more political opponents than any administration that I can think of.
Yeah, they've gone after people in ways that we've never seen before.
And it's right in line with, it started with former President Barack Obama using the IRS to target political opponents, conservatives, the Tea Party back then. And now you have, and I believe that Donald Trump issued more pardons than any president in modern history, if I'm not mistaken, but certainly more than Joe Biden, if you look at it on a month-per-month basis or annual basis.
It's astonishing the difference.
Yeah.
Between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Joe Biden's under like 50.
Right.
And Trump was like a few thousand.
I don't know if it was 50,000, but it was high.
A few
thousand.
Oh, I thought you said 50,000. I was like, well, come on, hyperbole.
No.
So let's look at Joe Biden. Has he jailed political? Well, remember Enrique Tarrio?
Yeah.
Proud Boys guy? Sentenced to 22 years for January 6th.
It's because that terrorism charge.
Yeah. Except he was in a Baltimore hotel.
Well.
Now, granted, he wasn't banging Chinese spies in said hotel.
Jeez.
Owen Schroyer.
Cool if he was.
It'd be a lot cooler if you did. And that movie line, comment below. Owen Schroyer, he was on the show, sentenced to 2 months for January 6th. He didn't enter the Capitol at all, let alone engage in any type of violence or destruction. Owen Schroyer, nothing. He didn't encourage violence. Also, you have to look at how is it applied. What happened with Ray Epps? Guy got a plea deal.
Yeah.
Last I've heard, he's not actually going to do serious time, let alone in a prison.
For doing
absolutely nothing.
Violence.
You have Peter Navarro. This was part of, I believe, of the Donald Trump transition team. 4 months for defying a congressional subpoena. That's the first person to be sentenced to jail for that crime in 50 years. Now, keep in mind that Eric Holder was completely let off the hook for the exact same thing in the Fast and Furious scandal, which resulted in deaths of Americans.
Yeah, and he was not holding office, but he was in his position in the government at the time, and still defied Congress, and Congress basically said, we're just going to hold you in contempt.
Right. And
serious?
Then you have the total number of January 6th protesters. Yeah. It's 1,296 charged, 797 sentenced, and the median sentence for what was largely trespassing, that was the most common charge, 165 days.
Yeah.
165 days serving in jail or prison if you took a walking tour.
Yeah, exactly.
Of the People's House. I say that every time because it's the People's House.
You own it.
All right, come on in. All right, let's be peaceful. Then you do 165 days in jail.
Yeah.
When has Donald Trump done that?
No, he hasn't done that. Let's not forget all the people that they tacked on the terrorism charge.
Right.
To try to make this out to be the worst incident that we've ever experienced, again, this worst attack on democracy in our history. And the number that we didn't include there, the people who committed suicide,
Yep.
rather than go to jail for what they thought would be 10, 20 years, thought their life was over because of this. Is that really what we saw on January 6th?
Right.
People committing suicide because of trumped up charges, especially in some cases where they pled guilty thinking it was going to be this charge. Then the government changed it and said, hey, they're actually tacking on this charge.
Yeah.
And they kill themselves at 22 years old because of this.
You know why? Because you say if these people can send me to prison, they can definitely do anything while I'm in prison.
Yeah.
They can ensure that I'm unprotected, that I'm vulnerable, and I have as unpleasant of a time as possible, almost like a Siberian penal colony.
Almost.
They lose their job and everything else.
Yep.
Lose their
Insane.
reputation.
Absolutely insane.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, I was going to say not to mention those, I think it was like 4 police officers that were involved in that killed themselves within 3 days. So they can't talk.
Remember, they were all listed as deaths.
I've
January
never-
6th at first, they
I've
said
never
7
seen
deaths.
Oh, 7?
They said 7, then they went to
Yeah.
5. Said 5 deaths. There was 1 death, and it wasn't an officer.
It was an officer, and then there were 4 officers that died later because they killed themselves.
Yep.
Killed
Unbelievable.
themselves.
Yeah.
Supposedly. I've never seen that in any riot, anything like that.
Right.
I mean, for crying out loud, there's been like mass, like the Las Vegas shooting. No, not one officer killed himself after that.
Well, this is like the example we talked about this a long time ago. We would Google, you would Google right wing, or you would Google, for example, fascism, and it would say fascism is an inherently right wing ideology. If you ran a Google search, I don't know if it's still the same right now. And then if you ran a search for communism or socialism, it would not say that it was inherently a left wing ideology.
Yeah.
They say this is like Donald Trump. Why? Because Donald Trump we've already labeled bad, fascist, right wing. Therefore, you can draw the comparison that Donald Trump wants to jail political dissidents. Hold on a second. That's just because you're switching definitions here. He hasn't done it. Joe Biden has done it. And the message is very clear. We'll get to these charges from this civil case with Donald Trump this weekend in Mar-a-Lago. The message has been clear. We're going to crucify Donald Trump, and we are going to F you up if you have worked with or for him, and then that extends to if you support him at all. That's the message. It has been very, very clear. So let's look at another truth here. The Biden administration, the DOJ, they actually want to do to Trump what Putin did to Navalny. Yep. It's a very clear comparison, and I don't know why so many people out there are missing this. So Navalny was basically jailed, incarcerated. I mean, I use the term jail. It doesn't seem severe enough for a Siberian penal colony. A bunch of trumped up charges. Fraud, embezzlement, extremism-related charges. Then he violated parole because he went to Germany for some medical treatment after he was poisoned.
By Russian agents?
Yes.
They're getting him for going to get treatment after their nerve agent failed to kill him and left him in a desperate need of treatment that they wouldn't give him in Russia?
Right. To be fair, I don't know if they had it. They have a lot of poison. They don't have a lot of anti-poison.
Ah, that's true.
They're not known for their
They're long on
anti-poison
poison.
as an export.
Yeah, they don't think they'll need the other side of it. So
Now, compare that to Donald Trump. He's being prosecuted for what? The Mar-a-Lago documents.
BS.
Then you have the full, and the only reason that Joe Biden is not being charged for something similar is because he's unfit to charge.
Unfit for the position.
Yeah, like we can't charge him. He has no idea. He's a well-meaning old man who doesn't know where his slippers are.
But he could be president.
But he could be president. Yeah.
Yeah, he can launch nukes, but he can't be trusted with his slippers or making it to the bathroom on time.
Yeah, you have what are the other charges? The Fulton County election interference, the New York hush money case, and then you have this loan fraud. So
That's not a fraud at all.
Yeah, it's just like how they got to Al Capone on tax evasion.
I know.
To be fair, I'm not saying Al Capone didn't deserve to be caught. What I'm saying is that they caught him on tax evasion.
Yeah.
They'll just make something up. In Donald Trump's case, I don't know that you could go through anyone's background with a fine-tooth comb and not find something worse than a bank being happy that you paid the loan back with interest.
And note, and in E. Jean Carroll's case, where they change the law and extend this period of time, so essentially she can file it, and she filed, and he's looking at over $100 million. It looks like there, or very close to it, I think, combined with the judgments.
Right.
It's insane.
And Donald Trump actually posted this on Truth Social. So he made this point. I'm glad that he made it this morning, where he said that him and Navalny have a lot in common. So this is from his Truth Social, which
this is the biggest hilarious.
It may be able to go public, and he may make $4 billion. Donald Trump. So Friday they're like, nailed him, and now like, actually he might make another smooth $4 billion. Like shit.
It's a lot better than sneakers.
He's gonna do both.
So he Truth Social. I have to cough. Like
you got to do it. You got to be able to get your Trump voice ready to roll.
He said, "Okay,
all right."
He said, "The sudden death of Alexei Navalny has made me more and more aware of what is happening in our country. It is a slow, steady progression. with crooked all caps. Radical left politicians, prosecutors, and judges. Judges leading us down a path to destruction. Some would say primrose. I wouldn't say that, but that's what they say.
It's not. No.
Open borders, rigged elections, and grossly unfair courtroom decisions are, this is a lot of all caps, I'm just telling you, destroying America. We are a nation in decline, a failing nation. But MAGA 2024.
Well, you got to set the precedent that it's failing so you can make it better.
Oh, my gosh.
It's failing now, but it doesn't always have to be. What's got two thumbs and will make this a not failing nation? This guy.
Thank you very much.
So that is the comparison. It really is Trump and Navalny.
Right.
Navalny would not Navalny would not come over here and be really anybody's friends. He's a Russian nationalist. He does some things that we don't like. He didn't distance himself enough from extremists, Nazis and stuff like that, and fascists. I get it. I understand all of that. But what he did is exposed corruption in his country, and he fought to try and change it, and they tried to kill him for it. They trumped up charges, which Putin has done time and time and time again. By the way, this is the same country that if you're successful will just seize your assets and your business and say, hey, that's a really great thing you just built for me, Gazprom, and I'm going to give it to some of my cronies over here. And by the way, you're lucky if I let you leave the country.
Right.
And they've done that over and over and over and over again, and then they try to kill this guy. Look at this guy and look at Donald Trump. The only thing they haven't done in the comparison yet is try to poison Donald Trump. Right. Everything else they've done. They've tried to get him on charges all over the place that are absolutely ridiculous. We're looking at all of these cases going, I can't believe they're doing that. They're changing the rules here. They don't ever even prosecute this for anybody. Why are they going after Trump?
Okay, this is a good example. Navalny exposed corruption in his own country.
Yeah.
Okay. Punished for it, obviously. In this country, you are punished for it. January 6th, you expose some problems, corruption, let's say in the American election system, you're punished for it. We expose corruption, for example, with the Nashville mayor, the Nashville Manifesto, the undercover unit here. Guess what? They say, oh, we're going to get the FBI. Yeah. We are going to prosecute. And they do the exact same thing. It's the same playbook. And I use this as an example because this also happened with Chippewa Falls, and it happened with the Nashville Manifesto. They came out and said, this is not true. This is not the manifesto. It's not authentic. Then they say, okay, it's authentic, but they shouldn't have done this. They're wrong. I say, oh, you know what? Actually, okay, they had the right to do this, but we're going to find out who the source is and punish them. And they're not able to do that because they're incompetent. That's what happens here. It largely happens exclusively toward people of one side of the political aisle. Find me the equivalent of January 6ers for Donald Trump. Could you comment below? And hit the like button if you don't think it exists, if you acknowledge that it doesn't exist. So Navalny, way more liberal than Putin, but he was nothing like an American liberal. We have to be clear about that. Right and left here means something a little bit different. Putin persecuted him out of fear, of course, that, he may not just win another landslide election.
Watch Slider with Crowder live, Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern.